Today we're going to be looking at Donk's record-breaking game against Wildcard on Ancient at Pro League, where he put up 38 frags. Yes, I am not lying. 38 within regulation, meaning within those 24 rounds, MR12. And he also put up 155 ADR and a 2.4 HLTV rating. And remember, guys, 3 weeks ago at Cologne, he had his worst game ever against G2 on Mirage, where he only had 4 frags. And Cologne was also his worst tournament ever. And last week, he actually came back and bounced back, winning the MVP at Bat Boom and Team Spirit, winning the whole event. So now in this opener, he is continuing his hot streak where he got 38 kills. Insane performance. We're going to watch to see what he did and why this game is so special and how he's able to get 38 frags. We didn't need to see that eco round. Nothing happened. Spirit full ecoed. And here we go into the first buy round where we see Wildcard coming out fast mid. You see there that he met heavy aggression from Wildcard towards mid here. I rewind it, guys, just to let you know. And he was super blind. So this was something a lot of teams do where you actually have 2 players throwing flashes. So we got Stanislaw and Sus. These 2 flashes will take care of any CTs mid, right? So Navi did a really good job when they play Donk on Ancient to throw those flashes, which negates his aggression towards mid. Nothing happened in the last round, but Spirit did eco Wildcard. Donk didn't get any frags. He still sits at 2 frags. There's a tech pause. And the funny thing about this tech pause is Chopper writes, "Sorry guys, my table rode with me." And we don't know I don't know how to translate that. And Zontic says, London language, never mind. So if anybody knows what Chopper meant by "sorry guys, my table rode with me," translate that for me down below. Let's talk about the position that Donk plays on Ancient. That is towards middle, and he usually starts coming out of window a lot of the rounds, and he will help out towards A when Zontix calls for it, or Zontix lets him know what's going on. But this is the perfect position mid for Donk because he can take these early engagements, uses his aim to his advantage, and he can rotate through Donut very fast to help out Zontex. And if he wants to, he can use his favorite move, which is to jump up heaven and take that early aggression fight towards B lane as shown here. But this is, as you can see, is later in the round. But he does have that option as well. So Donk being in mid is such a good position for him on Ancient. I'm going to skip the rest of the round here because nothing happens. Wildcard saves. Okay, so Wildcard on a full eco. We're 6 rounds in. Donk only has 3 frags. Like, come on, let's pick it up here. Oh no. Look what's happening. So we have Wildcard on full eco Glocks, and they're going to try to contest Donk here. Oh, this is going to be a recipe for disaster. We know how good Donk is on the anti-ecos. Gets an easy 3k on these Glocks. That is only going to power up his confidence here. All right, so you got 3 frags in the previous round. That is totaling up to 6 frags. We see Wildcard coming out fast mid. Let's see how Donk replies to this fast mid aggression previously to the 3 rounds ago when Wildcard tried it. So the reason why this works out is because Wildcard didn't throw an extra flash, guys. So if I rewind here, it's only Stanislaw, right? Yeah, there we go. There is no person on this side here. So that's why Donk was able to recover in time. And he's able to come back with his own flash. And he knows, since that smoke is there for the Molotov, that Wildcard could be out, except he wasn't expecting another player. So good round from Donk. I'm surprised we haven't seen any type of aggression towards the heaven side by Donk yet, where he likes to jump up and peeks down towards lane. And wow, that's a really nice nade from Wildcard, taking down to 50 HP. So the utility that you could do to counter mid, as you know, I shown the flashes early on in that first buy round from Wildcard. And then also, with mid players, they like to jump towards the mid donut area because the T's like to throw those flashes early on so you can recover inside that donut area. So let's see what Donk does here. He's going to take that off angle. Then he peeks. Oh my gosh, that's a nasty second frag. I got to rewind that back. That's a really good spray transfer from Donk and control here. Boom. So now we're in a 3v3. We know Donk and possibly another player is on A in the rotations. So Wildcard has somebody in cave. They're going to rotate out. Donk has his feeling that that is happening. So he is going to clear out mid. Makes a great call. And that's also a thing when you're like a top player, is that the other team will try to avoid you at times. And that's the freest frag that Donk gets. Now we're in the 3v2 with Donk having cave control. Wildcard making it onto site, and his teammates are towards the short, long back lane hall area. So it's very important that Donk stays alive here because it's going to make the retake much easier. So we see Wildcard choosing to advance into this area here, the short and long area. So his teammates played it right and they just waited. So if Donk died in cave, that gave the ability, you know, for Wildcard to get inside cave. So by having cave control, his teammates coming from short and long can easily retake B without having to worry about anybody being in cave. So we are 9 rounds in. Donk sits at 12-5. So this type of opponent, so these lower tier opponents for Donk, we already know his confidence is super high. But when playing lower tier teams, his level is just on, it's crazy. He turns it up. So it's just like, you know, imagine if, I don't know if you guys have Smurf before or been global. It's like you're playing against silvers. It's just like, you know that you're going to win any type of duel that you're taking. So that is how Donk is feeling right now. In this round, Donk tries to actually do the solo jump, long jump here towards the railing to go ahead and run it down to peak heaven. But we saw the nades that come into play here. I didn't even know, you know, that those nades can actually stop you or slow down to make you miss that jump. That's really cool to see. Usually when I see those nades, it's like, oh, they're trying to do damage early on, which is probably their intention. And okay, so we saw Zontex actually was the one that's pushing and taking mid, and Donk actually is anchoring A, which is not your ordinary scene here. So let's see what he does here. Okay, cool little move, little jump spot, little off angle here from the Brokey area. Wildcard go out mid, and that's the end of the round. I'm a Donk believer. I knew that just from Cologne, he was not going to have a back-to-back bad tournament like that. He puts a lot of pressure onto himself. So, like, if you guys follow his Telegram, he writes these messages. Oh, this is a cool smoke. That's for elbow. That goes through the rooftop. So, yeah, he writes statuses that's like, oh, you know, I had a bad tournament. You know, I'm not going to play like this again. He puts a lot of, what's the word? He puts a lot of blame on himself and responsibility that if he doesn't play bad, that he's going to step up. He puts so many hours into the game. Him and Monacy, like, they live and breathe CS, which is why I admire them both. And, you know, I just knew he wasn't going to have a back-to-back bad tournament at Bet Boom. And we see him continuing his super hot streak from Bet Boom here in EPL. So, yeah, Donk, and remember, he's only 17 at the end of the day. So, a lot of pressure is being put on this kid. And he is delivering such an amazing year for him. And he is going to end this half with a 17-5 record. All right, so going into the second half, Donk finishes the T side with 21 frags, which is insane to think about because players will finish in the 20s on the whole game. But he himself is getting 21 in the whole half here. Somebody did the math on Reddit and calculated that if this match was a MR15, then Donk would have gotten 48 frags in MR12, and that would have beaten Crim's record of 44, which is absolutely absurd. Alright, so we've got the eco here, Donk on a deagle, nasty as, ooh, that third frag was spicy. What is Donk's role on the T side of Ancient? He is in charge of getting mid control, and he is going to be supported by his teammates really well, and you'll see this a lot on Team Spirit's T side. If Donk goes out first, you're going to expect a lot of utility being thrown for him because that's going to capitalize on his entry and his insane aim. And that, I mean, that should just be in general for your entry fraggers. You want to minimize all the positions that the CTs can be and making it a very easier, you know, entry pathing for your teammates because nothing is more annoying when you're entering out and there's so many things that, you know, you have to look at. So the misconception is that Donk is the entry fragger, but I want to let you guys know that this is only the case when Spirit have a set execute strat. They have utility to allow him to get out there first safely. So as you saw there, Chopper actually went out first towards cave and Donk was right behind him to trade him. So if they're contacting in a certain area, you know, there's a higher percentage that like maybe an op would be holding and that you're not using utility to clear out that area and position. So Donk will be used to go in second and third to secure that trade frag That's how Team Spirit uses Donk on the T sides. The main difference I've seen so far from this game versus his worst game ever is his time to frag. So he's instantly locking on to his enemies and taking them down very fast. Except for here, Fuzi was able to spot him as he broke the smoke to try to get early frag to catch any CTs running through. The other thing that happened in this game versus the G2 game where he had his worst game ever is the ability to multi-frag. He was able to get a ton here in this game, but against G2, he could not get going, and I hate dealing with that flash there. Oh my gosh, that is one of the most hardest flashes to deal with. So it's this one here from Sonic. As you go into Donut, you know, every mid CTA player needs to know this flash. Let me tell you how this game is 9-9 despite Donk carrying with 24 frags. Our Team Spirit too reliant on Donk to win matches. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But shout out to Wildcard. Shout out to Stanislaw. He's done a lot of good things over here with this team and org. And this rebuild bringing in Fuzi and Spus. Fuzi, I don't know who he played with last, but I know he had his time in Young Ninjas. And Sus is a newer player. He was with Metasport. And we know who Sonic is. He's an experienced player. He used to, you know, I don't know if you guys know this, but Sonic was known as a prodigy in the South African scene with Bravado, where he would put up like Zywoo numbers is how he got his attention. Then went to Cloud9, then had Extra Salt. And now I remember he took a step back for school, but I guess he's full-time now, right? With Wildcard is my guess. And then who else we got here? JBA. Oh my gosh. Donk just deletes Sus. Anyways, JBA is the next up-and-comer, like, prodigy for NA. So, exciting times for Wildcard. They are going to be playing at a lot of tournaments. They've been on a hot streak since they signed these two European players. Alright, let's focus on the game here. We got a 4v3 after plant. So, we know that Long Smoke is coming down shortly, and Donk has to shift his attention and get away from there because he's in a really bad spot. So, that's why he peeks short. Otherwise, his other move here would have been to play behind the B pillar, but he decides to clear out short first there. Okay, Team Spirit actually lost that 4v3 post-play on B, which is absolutely absurd. But anyways, back to the topic of, is Team Spirit too heavily dependent on Donk to carry to win them games? So we see how close it is right now, 10-9. And on Nuke, it actually goes into overtime. This is no disrespect to Wildcard, but Team Spirit should be absolutely, you know, manhandling them. Like, it shouldn't even be this close. Without these matches and the same performance from Donk, potentially Team Spirit loses. I think maybe Team Spirit were playing too respectful against Wildcard. So we know when we see these type of matchups where we have one opponent, you know, in a much higher tier versus the other, they're not going to respect the other team. They're going to, you know, take these aim duels because they know their aim is much superior. So we know that Donk, you know, he has that confidence always. Doesn't matter who he plays. But I'm not sure about the rest of his teammates here. The type of carrying that Donk is doing reminds me of your former Navi lineups with Simple, as well as the older variations of Vitality with Zywoo. That's how I feel like Donk feels like sometimes in this Spirit lineup. And the reason why, you know, people think that Spirit are heavily reliant on Donk to win is what we saw at Cologne. He didn't have a good performance. Worst tournament ever. Spirit finishes last. So that, you know, that's why people are bringing this topic up to the occasion. And also this match game here. He has the game of his life, but both of the maps are super close. Let's check the kill counter for Donk, who round 21, 29, 11. Check out this flash he's about to throw. Make sure you learn it when you take and make control. This flash, basically, you just underhand it right in front of you as you go out. It's not going to blind you. And any CTs peeking you that are up close are going to get blinded, just how we saw with Sonic there. Okay, so what is Chopper going to call in a 5v4? What does Chopper call in a 5v4 with mid control? He's going to send his three teammates that were out mid back to A main, while he, on the other hand, has nades. And looks like he is going to throw a fake towards B, while his teammates are just going to walk out A. Hopefully that pulls off rotations. But we see that's not going to work. We see Wildcard is going to stack A with 3 players. That's perfectly timed stack here. And when you're playing a stack for the CT side, you're not going to rotate off of utility. So with the intention of mind, when you are gamble stacking, you're just going to play to save. So if the other team goes towards the other site, unless your teammate goes absurd and gets a multi-frag, which is Stanislaw in Cave, then that would allow for you to go ahead and give you the thought of maybe we should, retake. So well played by Wildcard. And Donk going out first was not good. This position is super hard to clear. Should have been Zontex, but then again, Zontex did have a Molotov out. But in that scenario, maybe you can just contact out, You're throwing utility to fake. Hopefully the CTs are leaving. And also, regarding, stacks, in this scenario, do you, want to, it's hard to say, like, do you want to sacrifice one player, like, the search to see, get more info? Because we know that's the case on ecos. Like, you might send one player towards the other site, but then you really want to give up another player and have it come down to a 4v4. If you guys been watching the pro matches on Ancient, one of the most common tactics that you'll see is a fast A rush. The reason why this works is because CTs focus 2 to 3 players towards mid, sometimes giving up A, but here we see Fuzi actually having a good position to try to stop that. And I feel like Spirit, although, being able to trade out Fuzi, if you're rushing, you just need to keep going. You don't need to stop at a certain entrance and get, clogged up like this and CT's throwing utility. But luckily they were able to do that, efficient enough to take advantage of the wildcard players not throwing anything and applying not enough pressure for them to actually eventually get out. That last round was huge for Team Spirit. Look at what wildcard is coming into this round. They force buy. So Team Spirit will know this, that their economy is not so good. So they're going to play super slow. They're going to wait, see if Wildcard try to do anything aggressive. And Team Spirit are not going to force anything, meaning they're not going to go out fast mid. They're just going to wait for pushes. So that's basically what they're doing. They're going to default and wait for pushes. And let's see how they end up. They're actually not even going to go for mid control. They're just going to give up mid. Wow. Good read from Wildcard. Look at that. They stack 4 towards B, but they're actually going to push down for info. And as this smoke fades, it's a disaster. That's easy for Donk. That's his type of kills, right? He is the master at getting frags against lower tier buys. He is going to end this round with kill on JBA. That sets him up for 36 going to the last round of the regulation. And as we know, he got 2 more frags, ending in 38. So that opens up the discussion. Is Donk the best player in the world? We have to respect that because he's doing it, as a entry fragger, if you want to call him that, right? Because he does entry on some rounds. While the other 2 players in consideration are Oppers, Monasi and Zaiwu, are, as Oppers are, they sit in the back. So they don't go out first. They're not entering. So Donk has a higher percentage that he is dying. And the impact that Donk has is just insane on his team. So after Clone, people were saying Zaiwu because, Vitality won. So Zaiwu was first. And, it was a debate between who was second, Donk or Monasi. But I feel like with Bet Boom and how EPL might end up for Donk, he could be number 1. But huge respect for him to do it this young at 17. And with a rifle as entry fragger, Donk is back. Donk is unwashed. Leave a like, comment down below, and I'll see you on the next one.